I stand frozen in my Connecticut kitchen, the air thick with the scorched bitterness of overbrewed coffee and a betrayal that burns deeper. My fingers trembling as if they know the weight of what's coming. Clutch my phone as its screen flares with a message that obliterates 16 years of marriage. Laura, I'm done. It reads the words from Ethan, my husband, a neurosurgeon whose honeyed charm once felt like a vow etched in stone. Naomi and I are starting over. The joint account's empty. Good luck, XOXO. That XOXO. A smug digital smirk lands like a lash across my heart. Each letter mocking the life we built, the dreams I shelved, the 3 children I raised, while he carved out glory in the operating room. Across town, in the gilded glow of a Manhattan restaurant, Ethan raises a glass of Bordeaux to Naomi Jackson, a tech tycoon whose braided crown sparkles under crystal chandeliers, her vibrant designer gown a testament to her wealth and unapologetic black pride. Her laughter bold and free echoes as they toast their escape, their new life built on the ashes of mine. They think I'm crumbling, picturing me sobbing into a pile of unpaid bills, a discarded wife too weak to fight back. But they don't know Laura Bennett. Not yet. I'm 42. The woman who traded her teaching career to fuel Ethan's ambitions, who smiled through hospital galas while he networked his way to the top. Tonight, I'm something else. A storm in an emerald gown striding into their candlelit haven. With a smile sharper than a blade, I glide to their table. The silk of my dress catching the flicker of candlelight. My heart a war drum beneath my calm facade. Ethan's eyes widen his grin, faltering as I slide a cream-colored envelope across the polished wood. Congratulations on your new life. I say, my voice smooth as glass, each word laced with a quiet fury. Inside that envelope lies a DNA test, a truth so explosive it'll shatter their smug little world and rewrite the story. Ethan thought he controlled. His fingers hesitate. Naomi's laugh dies in her throat, and the air crackles with the weight of what's coming. This isn't just a tale of a marriage gutted by infidelity. It's the story of a woman who saw the cracks in her perfect life, sharpened her resolve, and turned a traitor's arrogance into her greatest victory. How far would you go to reclaim your truth when the man you loved rewrote your entire existence? Stay with me. This fight, my fight, will make you question everything you thought you knew about trust, love, and the power of a well-timed truth. Picture a Connecticut evening 16 years ago, the kind where fireflies dance in the twilight and the scent of honeysuckle drifts through an open window. That was Ethan and me. Laura Bennett curled up on a sagging plaid couch in our tiny grad school apartment, our laughter mingling with the fizz of cheap Prosecco. I was 26, a high school English teacher with dreams of writing novels, my desk littered with scribbled drafts. Ethan, my college sweetheart, was a medical student with a crooked grin and a fire to save lives. We're a team, Laura. He'd whisper, his lips brushing my forehead as we mapped out a future, a colonial home, 3 kids, a life where my sacrifices would fuel his rise. I believed him, trading my ambitions for his, convinced our love was the kind that weathered any storm. Fast forward to 3 years ago, and the dream we'd built felt like a stage set, polished but hollow. Our colonial home in Darien, with its white picket fence and manicured lawn, was the envy of the PTA moms. I'd become the perfect surgeon's wife, hosting galas for hospital donors, packing lunches for Liam, Sophie, and Ava, smiling through Ethan's late nights with a grace I thought was strength. But the cracks were there, faint at first like hairline fractures in fine china. Ethan, now 45 and a star neurosurgeon, wasn't the man who'd promised me forever. His late surgeries stretched into midnight. His excuses, complex case. Laura delivered with a distracted glance at his locked phone. New cologne clung to his suits, sharp and unfamiliar, and his wardrobe swapped tailored jackets for flashy silk shirts that screamed, midlife crisis. You're too buttoned up, Laura. He'd jab, eyeing my sensible cardigans with a sneer. Live a little, then came Naomi Jackson. I first saw her at the hospital's spring gala, a vision in a crimson gown that hugged her curves, her braided crown adorned with gold beads that caught every light, her presence a bold celebration of wealth and black pride. Naomi 30 wasn't just Ethan's colleague. She was a tech tycoon, her startup's IPO, the talk of Wall Street. At the gala, I watched her toss her head back at Ethan's tired jokes, her manicured hand grazing his arm a moment too long. My stomach twisted a warning I buried under a sip of champagne. "She's just vibrant," I told myself, echoing Ethan's words when he mentioned her late-night consults. "Love blinds you, doesn't it?" Or maybe it was the weight of 16 years, the fear of admitting that the man who called me his anchor was drifting toward a shinier shore. The real fracture came 6 months ago at a fundraiser I'd spent weeks planning. I stood in a navy dress greeting hospital board members when Ethan interrupted my conversation with the chairman. "Laura, you're monopolizing the man," he snapped loud enough for heads to turn. "Stick to the canapes, not the strategy." The room stilled my cheeks burning as I forced a laugh, the perfect wife smoothing over his barb. Later in the car, he doubled down. "You embarrassed me, Laura." "Naomi says women should know their place at these things," Naomi says. Those words lodged in my chest like shrapnel, each mention of her name a reminder of my shrinking space in his world. My best friend Tara saw it too, but her advice stung worse. "He's under pressure." "Laura," she said over brunch, her fork stabbing a waffle, "don't push him away with your suspicions." Was I the paranoid wife, weaving conspiracies from cologne and late nights? Or was I the fool clinging to a marriage already slipping through my fingers? I'm Laura, and those cracks, Ethan's jabs, Naomi's lingering laughs. My own self-doubt were the prelude to a betrayal I never saw coming. I thought I was holding our family together, but I was standing on a fault line waiting for the quake. This isn't just about a marriage unraveling. It's about the moment I stopped being Ethan's wife and started fighting for myself. Want to know what I found when I looked closer? Let's step into the wreckage together. I stood in our Darien laundry room, the morning sun slanting through the blinds, casting stripes across a pile of Ethan's dress shirts. It was a Tuesday, 8:43 a.m., the kids already off to school. Liam with his soccer gear, Sophie clutching her science project, Ava humming a tune from her choir practice. I was just another Connecticut mom sorting whites from colors, the rhythm of domesticity, a comfort I'd clung to through Ethan's late nights and sharp jabs. But then buried in his gym bag tucked behind a tangle of sweaty socks, I found it a crisp white Oxford shirt, its collar stained with a slash of crimson lipstick. Not my shade. I wear soft coral, the kind Ethan once called sweet. This was bold, brazen, the kind of red that demands attention, the kind Naomi Jackson would wear. My hands froze, the shirt dangling like a guilty secret. My mind raced, conjuring excuses, maybe a colleague's makeup at a hospital meeting, a clumsy spill at a gala. But my gut, that quiet voice I'd ignored for too long, whispered a darker truth. I set the shirt down, its stain glaring under the fluorescent light, and turned to Ethan's phone left carelessly on the kitchen counter while he showered upstairs. One quick peek, I told myself, just to sync our calendars for the kids' spring recital. But as I swiped, a notification flashed, Naomi J. Last night was electric, Ethan. When are you leaving her? My breath caught my thumb, trembling as I opened the thread. 8 months of messages spilled out intimate promises, stolen photos of Naomi in silk lingerie, cruel jabs at my suburban mom life, Laura's planning Ava's choir concert. Ethan wrote in one, "Poor thing, thinks I'm at a conference. Can't wait to be with you." Each word was a dagger carving away the illusion of our 16-year marriage. I snapped the phone, shut my heart a war drum as Ethan's footsteps echoed down the stairs. I forced a smile, handing him his coffee, black 2 sugars the way he liked it, while my mind churned, should I scream? Throw the shirt in his face. But the PTA mom in me, the one who'd smiled through his fundraiser insults, kept my voice steady. Busy day at the hospital, I asked, my eyes locked on his. He nodded, oblivious, his new silk tie glinting like a trader's badge. That night, after the kids were asleep, I locked myself in our bedroom, the same room where we'd planned our future, where I'd cried through Sophie's colic and Ava's fevered nights. "Are you sleeping with Naomi Jackson?" I asked, my voice ablade, surprising even myself with its calm. Ethan didn't flinch. He set his watch on the nightstand, deliberate cold. "Yes," he said, his eyes meeting mine with a detachment that chilled me. "I've outgrown you. Laura Naomi's my future. She lives big, not like your little Darien bubble." His words hit like a physical blow, each syllable, a verdict on my sacrifices. 16 years of pausing my dreams, of polishing his image, of believing we were a team. I wanted to rage, to claw back the life I'd given him. But a deeper wound festered. The betrayal wasn't just Naomi. It was the mockery in his texts, the way he'd rewritten me as a footnote in his grand story. Society didn't help. The Darien moms with their yoga brunches and whispered gossip had trained me to smooth things over, to be the perfect wife who doesn't make waves. Even Tara, my best friend, had warned me not to push him away. Was I the fool for trusting him, or the failure for not seeing it sooner? I stood there, the lipstick-stained shirt still hidden in the laundry room, and made a choice I wouldn't break. I'd build. I'm Laura. And that crimson stain. Those damning texts weren't just the end of my marriage, they were my wake-up call. While Ethan plotted his escape with Naomi, I was gathering the shards of my life, ready to forge them into a weapon. This isn't just about catching a cheater. It's about a woman who learned that betrayal is a mirror, showing you who you've been and who you can become. Want to know how I started fighting back? The battle's just beginning. Stay with me. I sat in the dim glow of my home office, the lipstick-stained shirt and Ethan's damning texts still burning in my mind, their betrayal, a wound that refused to clot. The Darien moms with their manicured nails and whispered advice would have told me to confront him, to cry, to beg, but I wasn't that Laura anymore. I was a woman teetering on the edge of a truth far darker than an affair, and the only way forward was through. So I dialed Claire Monroe, a divorce attorney whose reputation for shredding cheating husbands was the stuff of local legend. Her office, a fortress of mahogany and leather-bound law books, smelled of ambition and old money. "Laura," she said, her voice sharp as a scalpel, "if Ethan's playing dirty, we need to dig deeper. Start with the money." I nodded, my fingers tracing the edge of her desk, but my heart wasn't ready for the abyss I was about to uncover. Claire's team tore into our finances like hawks on a carcass. Within days, they found it $300 siphoned from our joint savings, over 2 years funneled into a shell company called Elite Ventures, registered solely in Ethan's name. Each withdrawal $5,000 here. $10,000, there was a silent theft cloaked in his smug assurances of hospital investments. I sat at our dining table, the kids' homework strewn beside me, staring at those statements until my eyes blurred. Had he been planning his escape with Naomi, all along building a war chest while I packed lunches and ironed his shirts? The betrayal stung, but it was a paper cut compared to the bombshell waiting in the shadows. A chance encounter changed everything. At a hospital fundraiser where I'd forced myself to appear smiling through the pitying glances of Ethan's colleagues, I met Dr. Marcus Reed, a former neurosurgeon who'd vanished from the medical elite 3 years ago. His graying hair and weary eyes told a story of battles lost, but his handshake was firm. "Laura," he said, his voice low under the clink of champagne flutes, "I've been waiting for someone to ask the right questions about Ethan." We met the next day at his modest clinic 40 miles outside Darien, its waiting room. A far cry from the gleaming hospital Ethan ruled. Over bitter coffee, Marcus dropped a truth that shattered my world during our IVF treatments. For Liam and Sophie, Ethan had authorized swapping his sperm with an anonymous donor's to avoid passing on a hereditary neurological disorder. He signed the papers himself, Marcus said, sliding a faded clinic record across the table. He knew your kids wouldn't be his, biologically. He lied to you for—" My heart stopped the room tilting as Marcus's words sank in. Liam's crooked grin, Sophie's fierce curiosity. Every trait I'd thought was Ethan's was a fiction, a lie woven into the fabric of our family. I wasn't shattered by the genetics. I was gutted by the deception the way Ethan had stolen my choice, my truth while playing the devoted father I drove home in a daze. The Connecticut countryside blurring past my mind, a battlefield of grief and rage. Should I tell the kids rip apart their sense of identity, or protect them carrying this secret like a stone in my chest? Claire's warning echoed. This could hurt your custody case. Laura Ethan might spin you as unstable if you push this now. The Darien moms would have clutched their pearls, insisting family secrets stay buried. But I couldn't unsee that record couldn't unfeel the betrayal that made Naomi's affair seem like a petty footnote. I ordered a DNA test that night, my hands steady as I collected hair from Liam's brush saliva from Sophie's toothbrush, even a strand from Ethan's old comb left in the bathroom he no longer used. The 2-week wait was torture each day, a tightrope walk between normalcy, helping Ava with algebra, smiling at school drop-offs, and the dread pooling in my gut. When the results arrived, emailed in cold clinical language, they confirmed Marcus's truth. The alleged father is excluded. Probability of paternity. 0%. I printed 3 copies, one for Claire, one for a safe deposit box, one clutched in my trembling hands as I stared at the nursery where I'd rocked my babies. Ethan hadn't just cheated with Naomi. He'd rewritten our children's existence, and I'd been too trusting, too perfect to see it. I'm Laura, and that DNA test wasn't just a piece of paper. It was a grenade primed to blow Ethan's lies to pieces. While he strutted through hospital corridors dreaming of a future with Naomi, I was building a case to reclaim my truth. This isn't just about a marriage betrayed. It's about a woman who learned that the deepest cuts come from the secrets we never suspected. Want to know how I turned this bombshell into my battle plan? The war's heating up. Stay with me. I sat hunched over my laptop in the dead of night, the glow of the screen casting harsh shadows across my Darien office. The DNA test results still searing my mind like a brand. Ethan's betrayal wasn't just a lipstick stain or a string of texts with Naomi. It was a 16-year lie woven into the very DNA of our children. The Laura who'd once ironed his shirts and smiled through hospital galas was gone, replaced by a woman with a fire in her gut and a mission to unravel the full scope of his deceit. The Darien moms would have clutched their pearls, whispering that good wives don't snoop. But I wasn't a wife anymore. I was a detective, and every click of my keyboard was a step toward justice. My first lead came from Claire Monroe, my attorney whose voice over the phone was all steel and strategy. Laura Ethan's financial trail is just the tip. She said Elite Ventures isn't a one-man scam, it's tied to the hospital. Find someone on the inside, I scoured old hospital directories, my fingers trembling as I dialed Maya Evans, a nurse who'd worked in Ethan's fertility clinic during our IVF days. Maya agreed to meet me at a rundown diner off Route 95, its neon sign flickering like a warning. Her eyes, shadowed with years of unspoken truths, met mine over chipped coffee mugs. I always wondered if you'd come asking, she said, sliding a leather-bound journal across the sticky table. Its pages were a map of horrors, falsified IVF record specimen, swaps Ethan's signature authorizing protocol adjustments for 30 families, including ours. Maya's own daughter, born via IVF, had unexplained seizures, proof the clinic's lies had left scars beyond my own. But Maya's journal wasn't enough. I needed proof. Ethan knew proof that would hold up in court. I became a ghost in my own life, smiling at Ava's choir recital, helping Liam with algebra, while my nights were consumed by the hunt. I contacted other families from Maya's list, my voice steady as I pitched a truth most didn't want to hear. The Thompsons, a Greenwich couple, slammed the door in my face, their twins' laughter echoing as they hissed, "We don't need your conspiracy theories, Laura." Their fear mirrored my own. Was I tearing apart families to salve my pain? Tara, my best friend, saw the toll. "You're obsessed." She snapped over wine at her kitchen counter, her eyes flicking to my bloodshot ones. "What if you're wrong? You'll lose the kids, your reputation, everything." Her words stung, echoing the Darien mom's mantra. Keep the facade, don't make waves, but the journals inked truths. Maya's trembling hands kept me pushing forward. My breakthrough came during a co-parenting meeting with Ethan arranged to discuss the kids' summer camp. I wore my old cardigan playing the meek wife he expected, but a recorder hummed in my purse. "Liam's got your stubborn streak," I said casually, stirring my coffee. Ethan smirked, distracted by his phone. "Good genes, I guess." I leaned in, voice soft but pointed. "Do they have your neurological condition too?" The one Marcus mentioned, his head snapped up, eyes narrowing. "Marcus should keep his mouth shut," he growled. "I had the kids tested years ago, Laura. They're fine. I made the call as their father and a doctor." His words caught on tape were gold, an admission he knew about the disorder, tested the kids without me, and upheld the lie of their paternity. I smiled, sipping my coffee, while my heart roared with triumph. Claire's team dug deeper, tracing elite ventures to offshore accounts linked to hospital kickbacks. Each discovery was a thread in a web of deceit, with Ethan at its center, spinning lies to protect his empire. But I wasn't just fighting for me. Maya's daughter, the Thompsons twins, the 30 families they deserved truth, even if it broke them. I stood in my office, Maya's journal opened the recorder's weight in my hand, and felt the shift. This wasn't revenge, it was reclamation. I'm Laura, and this investigation wasn't just about exposing Ethan, it was about shattering the system that let him thrive. Want to know what I found when I pulled the next thread? The truth about Naomi's role is, next stay with me. I sat in my Darien office, the clock ticking past midnight, Maya's journal and Ethan's recorded confession, heavy in my hands like weapons forged from betrayal. The DNA test had shattered my world, exposing Ethan's 16-year lie about our children's origins. But the financial trail, $300,000 siphoned to elite ventures, hinted at a larger web with Naomi Jackson at its edge. I'd seen her as the other woman, a tech tycoon whose braided crown and designer gowns outshone my Connecticut cardigans. But my gut whispered she was more than Ethan's escape. I hired a private investigator, a grizzled ex-cop named Vince, whose report now lay open on my desk, its pages a map to a truth that would redefine everything. Naomi wasn't just a mistress, she was a predator, hunting Ethan with a motive rooted in blood and vengeance. Vince's report was a bombshell. Naomi Jackson born. Naomi Henderson was the daughter of Dr. Evelyn Henderson, a renowned philanthropist who died 5 years ago during Ethan's botched neurosurgery. The hospital's official report blamed Evelyn's death on a pre-existing condition, but Vince uncovered sealed records showing Ethan's error operating on minimal sleep after a weekend in Napa, with donors his hands unsteady from exhaustion. The hospital buried the truth, paying off the Henderson family with a settlement Naomi refused to accept. She changed her name, built a $50 million tech empire, and infiltrated Ethan's life first as a hospital consultant, then as his lover. Her every move a calculated step toward his ruin. I stared at the grainy photo in the report Naomi at her mother's funeral, her eyes hollow with grief, and felt a jolt of recognition. Her pain mirrored mine. 2 women sculpted by Ethan's lies, but her path was a dark mirror. I wasn't sure I could follow. I couldn't resist confronting her. I tracked Naomi to her Manhattan penthouse, a glass-walled fortress overlooking Central Park, its marble floors gleaming under the light of a modern chandelier. She opened the door in a silk caftan, her braided hair adorned with gold, her smile a blend of curiosity and disdain. "Laura Bennett," she said, her voice smooth as velvet, the scorned wife. "To what do I owe the pleasure?" I stepped inside my sensible flat stark against her opulence and laid Vince's report on her glass coffee table. "I know about your mother, Naomi, about Ethan's mistake. Is this why you're with him? Revenge. Her laugh was sharp, a blade wrapped in silk. You think you're the only one he's wronged? She said, pouring champagne with a steady hand. Ethan took my mother, Laura. I'm taking his world, his career, his pride, his future. You're just collateral damage. Her words hit like a slap, but her eyes, glittering with a grief older than my own, held me captive. I'd come expecting an ally, a sister in betrayal, but Naomi's vengeance was a wildfire, burning without mercy. We could work together. I ventured my voice, wavering. Expose him, the hospital, all of it. She leaned closer, her perfume sharp and intoxicating. You're playing checkers, Laura. I'm playing chess. Ethan's downfall is mine alone. The rejection stung, not just for its coldness, but for the mirror it held up. Was my fight for truth any different from her hunger for destruction? The Darien moms would have called her ruthless, a stereotype of a powerful black woman they'd never understand. But I saw her pain, her loss, and it haunted me. Had Ethan turned us both into monsters, or was I still fighting for something more? I left Naomi's penthouse with no alliance but a sharper resolve. Her motive, revenge for her mother's death, wove another thread into Ethan's web of deceit, but it wasn't my weapon. My fight was for Liam, Sophie, Ava, for the 30 families in Maya's journal, for the truth I'd nearly lost to Ethan's lies. I stood in my driveway, the Connecticut stars cold above, and felt the weight of my choice to build a case not for vengeance, but for justice. Society expected me to crumble to let Ethan's charm rewrite my story, but I was rewriting his. I'm Laura, and Naomi's rejection didn't break me. It lit a fire. Want to know how I planned the final blow to Ethan's empire? The showdown's coming, stay with me. The night of the hospital's annual gala glittered with promise. Its ballroom a cathedral of crystal chandeliers and polished marble, where Darien's elite mingled in tailored tuxedos and shimmering gowns. I stood at the edge of the crowd, my emerald dress a quiet rebellion against the whispers of poor Laura, the scorned wife. Ethan was to be crowned Surgeon of Excellence, a title dripping with irony. Only I understood. For weeks, I'd woven a trap. Claire's financial records, Maya's journal, Marcus's testimony, my recording of Ethan's confession, all handed to federal agents now waiting in the wings. Tonight wasn't just a gala, it was my battlefield, and I was ready to bring Ethan's empire crashing down. I'd orchestrated every detail. Days ago, Claire had met the hospital board in a clandestine session presenting evidence of Ethan's fraud, $300,000 siphoned to Elite Ventures IVF records, falsified for 30 families, including mine. The board's faces, usually smug behind their Ivy League degrees, had paled as Claire played my recording. Ethan's voice cold and arrogant, admitting he'd tested our kids for his neurological disorder, upholding the lie of their paternity. This ends tonight, the board chair had whispered, greenlighting a public reckoning. But Ethan, oblivious, held court near the stage, his arm draped around Naomi Jackson, her crimson gown a bold echo of the lipstick that started this war. Her braided crown gleamed her smile, a mask of triumph, unaware that her own revenge tied to her mother's death was about to be eclipsed by mine. Ethan ascended the stage, his tuxedo pristine, his grin practiced as he accepted the crystal trophy. Medicine is trust. He intoned, his voice smooth as velvet, a sacred bond between doctor and patient, guided by ethics. The crowd clapped, but I caught Naomi's eyes, her calculated adoration flickering with something darker. Grief, perhaps, for her mother. Our gazes locked a fleeting recognition of two women who'd seen Ethan's true face. But my path was different. As the applause faded, I slipped out my heels, clicking on marble, and headed to the restaurant where Ethan and Naomi would dine post-gala, a sleek Manhattan haunt with white tablecloths and Italian opera humming. Softly, I'd tipped off the agents they'd follow, ready to strike. I entered the restaurant, the cream-colored envelope in my clutch, a ticking bomb. Ethan and Naomi sat at a corner table, a bottle of 1990 Bordeaux between them, the same vintage we'd shared on our 10th anniversary, a detail that twisted like a knife. The maitre d', recognizing me from years of Ethan's hospital dinners, hesitated. "Mrs. Bennett, your husband didn't mention—" I smiled, my voice steady. "I'm expected." Ethan saw me first, his grin faltering, replaced by a flash of annoyance. "Laura," he said, his tone patronizing, "this is unexpected." Naomi's eyes narrowed, her gold-adorned braids catching the candlelight as she shifted, sensing a shift in the air. "Stay, Naomi," I said, my gaze locking with hers. "You've earned this moment." I slid the envelope across the table, its weight heavier than the truth it held. "Congratulations on your award, Ethan," I said, my voice a blade cloaked in silk. "But this is the real honor you deserve." His fingers trembled as he opened it, pulling out the DNA test results. His eyes scanned the page. Probability of paternity, 0%, and his face collapsed, confusion morphing into horror. "This is impossible." He stammered, his voice a cracked whisper. "Is it?" I countered, calm as stone. "You swapped your sperm during our IVF, Ethan. You lied about our children for 16 years. And the hospital, they know about Elite Ventures, the 30 families your kickbacks." Naomi's champagne glass froze mid-air, her mask slipping as she realized her revenge was no longer hers. Alone, Ethan's rage erupted. "You vindictive," he began. But Agent Daniels, a federal officer with a badge glinting under the restaurant lights, cut him off. "Dr. Ethan Caldwell, you're under arrest for medical fraud, financial crimes, and ethical violations." The room fell silent, diners' forks pausing as handcuffs snapped around Ethan's wrists. Naomi stood, her crimson gown pooling like blood, and tried to slip away, but Daniels blocked her. "Miss Jackson, you're needed for questioning." Her eyes met mine, a storm of fury and grudging respect. I didn't gloat I'd won, but the cost 16 years, my children's truth, was a scar I'd carry forever. As agents led Ethan out, his trophy left abandoned on the table, I felt no triumph, only clarity. I'd shattered his lies, and mine was just beginning. I'm Laura, and this showdown wasn't just a victory. It was my declaration of independence. Ethan's empire fell, but the fallout would test me in ways I never imagined. Want to know how I rebuilt from the ashes of this night? The aftermath is next. Stay with me. I stood in my Darien backyard, the morning dew soaking my slippers, the air sharp with the scent of wet grass and new beginnings. The gala's chaos, the clink of handcuffs on Ethan's wrists. Naomi's stunned silence felt like a lifetime ago. Though only weeks had passed, Ethan's empire had crumbled, his lies exposed in a blaze of federal charges and hospital disgrace. But victory tasted less like champagne and more like ash. I'd shattered his world, but the wreckage of my own 16 years of a marriage built on deceit, a family redefined by a DNA test, lay scattered at my feet. The Darien moms, with their sidelong glances at school drop-offs, whispered, I was vindictive, a scorned wife who'd gone too far. But I wasn't here to gloat. I was here to rebuild brick by painful brick, and that was a fight fiercer than any gala showdown. The fallout was swift and merciless. Ethan faced multiple felony counts, medical fraud, financial crimes, ethical violations. His medical license revoked, his name splashed across headlines from the New York Times to local Darien blogs. A forensic accountant appointed by the court clawed back $250 from Elite Ventures' offshore accounts, securing a trust for Liam, Sophie, and Ava's future. But money couldn't mend the deeper wounds. I sat the kids down in our living room, the same room where we'd built blanket forts and read bedtime stories, and told them the truth about their origins. Your dad made choices. I said, my voice steady, despite the ache in my chest. But you are mine, always. Sophie, fierce at 14, hugged me tight, whispering, You're enough, Mom. Liam, 16, nodded silently, his eyes distant, while Ava, 10, asked, Does this mean Dad's not my dad? Her question was a knife, and I held her close, promising love over biology. Had I done right by them, or had I broken their world to save my own? Naomi's fate was quieter, but no less seismic. Her tech empire weathered the scandal, but she withdrew from public life, her vibrant social media silenced. A letter arrived one gray morning, her elegant script stark against creamy stationery. Laura, it read, "I underestimated you. My mother's justice wasn't yours to claim, but I respect your fight." No apology, just a grudging nod from one warrior to another. I tucked the letter away, its weight, a reminder of our shared pain, our divergent paths. The Darien moms would have painted her as the villain, a black woman too bold, too rich for their manicured world. But I saw her grief her fire and wondered if we'd ever truly be free of Ethan's shadow. The hospital's collapse was my turning point. With Maya Evans, the nurse whose journal fueled my fight, I co-founded Truth in Fertility, a nonprofit advocating for transparency in IVF clinics. Our first meeting in a cramped Darien community center drew 20 families, some from Maya's list. Others sparked by the headlines. Their stories, raw with loss and betrayal, echoed mine, and I found purpose in their courage. But rebuilding wasn't just external terror. My best friend showed up at my door one night, her eyes red. "I was wrong to doubt you," she said, clutching a bottle of Merlot. "I thought you'd lose yourself, but you found something bigger." Her apology mended a fracture I hadn't named, but the Darien mom's whispers. Laura's too intense, now stung. Was I too much for their world, or was their world too small for me? I poured my heart into Unbroken, a podcast launched from my dining room, its episodes weaving stories of women who'd risen from betrayal. The first episode about my gala night hit 10,000 downloads in a week, each listener a thread in a tapestry of resilience. But the real battle was within. Late at night, staring at the nursery where I'd rocked my babies, I wrestled with guilt had I traded their stability for truth. Society wanted me to stay the perfect wife, silent and smiling, but I'd chosen to be Laura Messy, fierce-free. The Darien moms could keep their whispers. I was building a legacy for my kids, for Maya, for every woman who'd been told to shrink. I'm Laura. And this aftermath wasn't about glory. It was about roots growing strong from ashes. Want to know the lessons I learned to protect my future and yours? They're coming next. Stay with me. I stood in my Darien living room, the twilight casting golden streaks across the hardwood. My journal open to a page worn from months of scribbled truths, the gala's thunder, Ethan's arrest, Naomi's stunned retreat. The DNA test that rewrote my family had faded, but its echoes lingered in my bones. I'd toppled a liar's empire, co-founded a nonprofit, launched a podcast that reached thousands, but the scars of 16 years weren't erased by headlines or applause. The Darien moms, with their pursed lips at soccer practice, called me a hero one day, a troublemaker the next, their whispers a reminder that society loves a perfect wife, but fears a woman who fights back. Now I'm breaking the fourth wall. Laura Bennett sharing 5 hard-won lessons to shield your future from the betrayals I nearly missed. These aren't just my truths. They're your armor, forged in fire. Lesson 1. Trust your instincts. They're louder than doubt. That first twinge when Ethan's cologne changed wasn't paranoia. It was my gut screaming what my heart refused to hear. I ignored it, schooled by Darien's mantra to keep the peace, and nearly lost everything. My friend Karen wasn't so lucky. She dismissed her husband's late meetings and found her savings drained in a divorce. A 2024 Psychology Today study backs this: 80% of women sense infidelity before evidence emerges. Don't silence that whisper. It's not jealousy. It's your first line of defense. Lesson 2. Secure your finances before the storm hits. Ethan siphoned $300,000 to Elite Ventures while I packed lunches, assuming our joint account was sacred. I was lucky Claire's team recovered most of it, but I nearly didn't act, fearing it was unromantic to open a separate account. Contrast that with my neighbor Lisa, who shared every cent with her ex and ended up selling her car to pay rent. Forbes reported in 2024 that 65% of women lose significant assets in divorce due to joint accounts. Open that account today. Money isn't just freedom, it's survival. Lesson 3. Document everything. It's your shield in the dark. My journal, filled with Ethan's texts, receipts, and that damning recording, was my lifeline in court. Every late night, every Naomi says jab. I wrote it down feeling obsessive, but knowing it was power. I think of Sarah, a Truth and Fertility member who trusted her exes. We'll work it out and had no proof when he drained their savings. A 2023 Reddit thread showed women winning custody with meticulous records. Start your journal. Now every detail is a brick in your fortress. Lesson 4. Seek legal help. Early waiting is a trap I called Claire months before the gala, when the lipstick stain first raised flags. Her advice: secure assets, log evidence, save my home, my kids' future. But I almost waited thinking lawyers were for when it's bad. Don't make my mistake. A 2024 TikTok trend showed women losing everything by delaying legal counsel. I met a mom at a nonprofit meeting who waited too long and lost her house. An hour with a lawyer can save years of regret. Pick up the phone today. Lesson 5. Turn pain into power. It's your greatest weapon. Ethan's betrayal could have buried me, but I channeled it into truth and fertility, into unbroken, into a voice for thousands. Every tear fueled a step forward, like Maya, who turned her daughter's seizures into advocacy society. Those Darien moms wanted me to stay silent, to shrink. I chose to roar. A 2023 NPR story on fertility fraud. Victims showed how pain sparked reform. Your hurt isn't the end. It's the spark. What will you build with yours? I'm Laura, and these lessons aren't just scars. They're my map carved from a marriage that lied and a truth that freed me. The Darien moms can whisper, but I'm not their perfect wife anymore. I'm a woman who learned to protect her future, and I'm here to help you protect yours. Want to know how to join this fight and write your own story? The call is coming. Stay with me. I stood in my Darien living room, the golden glow of fairy lights dancing across the walls, the air alive with the scent of lavender candles and hard-won hope. My journey from Ethan's cruel text to the gala's shattering truth, from a lipstick stain to a DNA test that rewrote my family, wasn't just a story of betrayal. It was a battle cry, a spark that lit truth. Infertility fueled Unbroken and gave voice to thousands of women who'd faced the same shadows. The Darien moms with their pursed lips at PTA meetings called me too much. Their whispers, a cage I'd long outgrown. But as I looked out at my kids, Liam's quiet strength, Sophie's fierce hug, Ava's trusting eyes, I knew this fight wasn't mine alone. It's yours too, and I'm here. Laura Bennett, inviting you to join a community that doesn't just survive betrayal, but thrives beyond it. Welcome to TPT Affair Stories, where every scar becomes a story and every story becomes power. Let me tell you about Jenna, a woman who emailed me last week after hearing Unbroken's first episode. She was me 2 years ago, standing in her kitchen, staring at a bank statement drained by her husband's business trips, her gut screaming while her friends urged her to keep the peace. Jenna wrote, "Your story gave me courage." Laura, I opened a separate account, started a journal, and hired a lawyer. I'm not invisible anymore. Her words hit me like a wave, not because I'd saved her, but because she'd saved herself, using the lessons I'd learned the hard way. Trust your instincts, secure your money document. Everything, seek help early, turn pain into power. Jenna's fight started with a single step, a click, a subscription to TPT Affair Stories, and it's changing her life. What's stopping you from taking yours? Here's the small lesson I wish I'd known 16 years ago. Your truth is your greatest ally, but only if you claim it. I almost didn't. I let Ethan's charm, the Darien mom's expectations, my own fear of making waves, silence me, nearly costing me my children's future, my home, my voice. Society loves a quiet woman, but it fears one who speaks. When Ethan texted, "Good luck, XOXO," he thought I'd crumble, another perfect wife erased. Instead, I built a movement. You can too, whether it's a journal entry, a lawyer's call, or a dream you've shelved too long, but you don't have to do it alone. TPT Affair Stories is more than a channel. It's a community where women like Jenna, like me, like you, turn betrayal into beginnings. So here's my call: if you've ever felt the sting of a lie, doubted your worth, or dreamed of rising stronger, hit that red subscribe button on TPT Affair Stories right now. Drop your story in the comments. Tell me the moment you trusted your gut or wished you had. Like this video, share it with a friend who needs to hear it and ring that bell so you don't miss what's next. Next week, I'm diving into how I scaled unbroken during chaos with secrets to turn your pain into a platform. Don't miss it. The Darien moms can keep their cages. We're building something bigger. Join us and let's write your triumph together. Your truth is waiting. Claim it today.